Thank you for inviting me on. And yeah, I am with some very eminent speakers. It's very nice to see Kirsten again. Haven't seen you for a long while. I haven't really got a speech prepared. I think I come from the Palestine Action angle, where I suppose hope was the thing that was mentioned, but also, while we, Palestine Action, have been incredibly successful in closing at least 2 Israeli arms factories down, what we as activists started to notice that the British state, the British police, the court system, everything is all entangled in the same pot. So even if you're not doing anything arrestable, you'll be arrested just for being there. And it seems that the arm of the law, the police, the courts, absolutely everything, just to get you removed off site so that you can no longer be an influential character or a key figure. So I think, yes, there's great positives because huge numbers of young people are coming on board. They're seeing what Elbit is, what the Israeli arms factories are doing. They're starting to join the dots together and realize that we don't want to be complicit with the making of Israeli weapons and the drones and the other munitions that the Israeli arms manufacturers are responsible for. And especially when something concrete happens in Palestine where the dots are very, very closely connected, like when we were protesting outside Leicester's UTAX, which is another subsidiary of Elbit, one Palestinian person was actually killed by a payload drop from a drone. So the connections brought people, encouraged young people to join us. And so for that reason, there is a lot of hope. We then find out that Elbit now is opening 2 more subsidiaries or 2 more factories in Morocco, one in Casablanca. So it's preparing the way for, okay, we may not be able to survive the UK because there's this huge movement to get us shut down. So what we'll do is we'll start opening other factories in other countries, and we've seen in Germany, but also Austria, I think, and now Morocco. So the fight to get Israeli arms companies out of Britain doesn't necessarily mean that the Israeli regime is going to stop manufacturing Israeli weapons to use against the Palestinian people. So we're sort of caught in that trap of, it's not just that we want to stop being complicit. We actually want Palestine Action to become international so that every country is then putting the same amount of pressure and using direct action to shut these lethal companies down. But I think there was one point somebody made, and it reminded me, of I think it was Professor Richard Falk said, if you don't enforce international law, it doesn't exist. And for me, that is a very important phrase, because I think what's happening with the ICC, what's happening with international law, the numerous United Nations resolutions, they don't go anywhere. They go nowhere. And, the powers that be, and you've seen what happened with Roger Waters, with his tour, because he's pro-Palestinian, he's anti-war, he's anti-imperialist, and he has a huge amount of integrity. The attempt to shut him down in case he should influence thousands of people across the UK and in other countries has been huge. I think it's backfired, but it's been huge. And so, I have a lot of hope with Palestine Action. I know that the engine room of Palestine Action will not cease. It will not stop until every Israeli arms factory is shut down in this country. And I kind of know that from the energy that comes from, if you like, what I call the engine room, and the numbers of people that are being recruited, the numbers of people that want to join, that want to take part in direct action. The age of people is getting a little bit younger. There's more students getting involved. In fact, the pro-Palestinian movement at the moment is becoming huge. And I think that's why you're seeing so much resistance from the establishment, because it's growing. And it's growing so enormously, it's noticeable. So I think, I have hope for Palestine Action. I have hope for some of the movements on the ground. But what I see is this enormous amount of pressure coming from our leaders and governments to silence the Palestinian narrative, to silence the movement, to stop people or to make people fearful of being outspoken about Palestinian justice and rights and the inalienable right to return home. So I think there's enormous pressure coming from the top, but there's also enormous recruitment and pressure coming from the bottom. So maybe we meet together and the people power wins. Let's just hope.